The unveiling of the USS Blackstar, the year was 2245, and humanity had quietly risen from the ashes of its tumultuous past, building a thriving civilization on Earth and reaching out to the stars. But despite its technological advancements, Earth had remained an isolated, neutral power, wary of the vast and dangerous galaxy it found itself a part of. For decades, the galactic powers had largely ignored the small blue planet orbiting a solitary star on the edge of the Milky Way, dismissing humanity as a primitive and insignificant race. But Earth had been busy. Deep within the bowels of the moon, in secret shipyards and research facilities, the greatest minds of humanity had been working tirelessly, developing weapons and technologies far beyond what the rest of the galaxy could comprehend. Chief among these projects was the USS Blackstar, a warship of unparalleled power and sophistication, bristling with quantum cannons and armored with a composite material that could shrug off even the most powerful energy weapons. The Blackstar was the crown jewel of Earth's secret fleet, a force built in the shadows to protect humanity from the inevitable day when the galaxy's larger powers would turn their eyes toward Earth with less than benevolent intentions. That day arrived when the Deltan Empire, a ruthless and expansionist regime that had conquered and enslaved countless worlds, set its sights on Earth. Led by the megalomaniacal Emperor Zanth, the Deltans believed that Earth was ripe for the taking, a backwater world with primitive technology that would be easily subdued and brought under Deltan control. As the Deltan fleet massed at the edge of the solar system, broadcasting demands for Earth's immediate surrender, Earth's leaders knew that the time had come to reveal their hidden strength. Aaron Walker, the brilliant scientist and lead engineer who had overseen the construction of the Blackstar, was chosen to command the vessel on its maiden voyage. He was a man of science, not war, but he understood the stakes. The fate of Earth, and possibly the entire human race, rested on his shoulders. As the Blackstar emerged from behind the moon, its sleek, black form shimmering in the light of the distant sun, the Deltan warships reeled in shock. They had expected to face an assortment of outdated, inferior Earth vessels, not this behemoth of a warship that dwarfed even their mightiest dreadnoughts. Energy crackled along the Blackstar's hull as it powered up its systems, preparing to engage the Deltan fleet. On the bridge, Walker stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes locked on the view screen as the Deltan ships moved to intercept. The tension in the air was palpable. This was not just a battle. It was a test, a demonstration of humanity's resolve and its ability to defend itself against a superior foe. The Deltan ships opened fire first, launching streaks of orange plasma that cut through space toward the Blackstar. The weapons impacted the Blackstar's shields but did no damage. The energy dissipated harmlessly, a testament to the ship's advanced defensive systems. Walker gave the order to return fire. The Blackstar's forward quantum cannons flared to life, unleashing beams of blinding white light that lanced out with surgical precision, slicing through the Deltan ships like a hot knife through butter. The Deltan vessels disintegrated, their remains nothing more than expanding clouds of debris and glowing embers. Light years away on the Deltan throne world, Emperor Zanth watched the battle unfold on a live video feed. His disbelief quickly turned to rage as he witnessed his battle squadron, the pride of the Deltan fleet, being decimated by a single human ship. He slammed his fist down on the arm of his throne, his eyes blazing with fury. "How could the Earthers have developed such advanced technology without us knowing?" he roared at his generals. Zanth was not a man accustomed to defeat, and the thought of a primitive race like humanity besting his forces was unthinkable. He ordered his commanders to crush the humans and seize their secrets at any cost. Back aboard the Blackstar, the bridge erupted in cheers as the last Deltan ship was obliterated. Walker allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. They had won the battle, but he knew that this was only the beginning. The Deltan Empire would not take this defeat lightly. The war had just begun, and Earth would have to fight with every ounce of its strength if it was to survive. The Blackstar's victory had proven one thing: humanity would not be cowed. But now, the Deltan war machine would be focused on Earth, and Walker knew that they would have to take the fight to the Deltans if they were to secure their homeworld's freedom. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and difficult choices. Walker turned his thoughts to the next phase of their campaign, knowing that failure would mean the enslavement or extinction of the human race. A strike team, led by Lieutenant Chen, one of Walker's most trusted officers. Chen and her team fought their way through the depot's defenses, using advanced stealth technology and precise coordination to outmaneuver the deltan forces. They planted charges on the depot's main reactor, setting the stage for a controlled detonation that would render the facility useless. Meanwhile, the Blackstar provided air support, raining down precision strikes on deltan reinforcements that attempted to stop the strike team. The operation was executed flawlessly, and within hours, the depot was destroyed, another critical blow to the deltan war machine. With the success of these initial strikes, the Blackstar and the rest of Earth's fleet continued their assault, moving from one target to the next, systematically dismantling the Deltan Empire's military infrastructure. The Deltans, caught off guard by the speed and ferocity of the attacks, struggled to mount a coherent defense. Their forces were spread thin, their supply lines disrupted, and their communications in disarray. The Empire, once seen as an unstoppable juggernaut, was now reeling from the onslaught of a foe they had vastly underestimated. But as the campaign progressed, Walker knew that the real challenge was yet to come. The Deltans would not surrender easily, and they still had one final card to play, their emperor, Zanth. A man of unparalleled ambition and ruthlessness, Zanth was not the type to accept defeat. He would fight to the last, using every resource at his disposal to crush the humans who had dared to challenge him. The final confrontation was inevitable, and Walker knew that it would be the most difficult battle of his life. But he also knew that they had come too far to turn back now. The fate of Earth and the future of the human race depended on their success. The Blackstar would face the Deltan Empire's full might, and it would emerge victorious, or it would be destroyed in the attempt. The Ghost in the Machine. As the Blackstar and the rest of Earth's fleet continued their campaign against the Deltan Empire, a mysterious figure emerged from the shadows, offering to aid the humans in their fight. This figure, known only as the Ghost, claimed to be a high-ranking Deltan official who had grown disillusioned with the Empire and its oppressive regime. The Ghost had access to sensitive intelligence, including the locations of key Deltan military installations, secret research facilities, and communication hubs. The offer of assistance was tempting, but it also raised suspicions. Could this Ghost be trusted, or was it a trap, a ploy by Emperor Zanth to lure the humans into a false sense of security? Walker wrestled with the decision, knowing that the information provided by the Ghost could be the key to ending the war, but also aware of the risks involved. After careful consideration and consultation with his advisors, Walker decided to take a calculated risk and accept the Ghost's help. The first target provided by the Ghost was a secret research facility on the remote world of Dallara 6. The facility was rumored to be developing a new superweapon, one that could tip the balance of power in the Deltans' favor. Destroying it would deal a significant blow to the Empire and prevent the weapon from ever being used against Earth. The Blackstar set course for Dallara 6, its crew on high alert, ready for anything. As they approached the planet, the ship's sensors detected a powerful energy field surrounding the facility, a shield designed to repel even the most advanced weapons. But the Ghost had provided the codes to bypass the shield, allowing the Blackstar to penetrate the facility's defenses without raising an alarm. Walker ordered a stealth approach, keeping the ship's profile low and its weapons systems offline until they were within striking distance. The Blackstar entered the atmosphere of Dallara 6, skimming the surface of the planet as it made its way toward the facility. The landscape was barren and desolate, a wasteland of rocky crags and swirling dust storms. The facility itself was hidden within a massive canyon, its entrance concealed by a holographic projection that blended seamlessly with the surrounding terrain. The Blackstar's sensors cut through the illusion, revealing the hidden entrance. "Prepare to deploy ground troops," Walker ordered, his voice calm but tense. "We need to take this facility offline before they know we're here." The ship's transporter systems hummed to life, beaming down a strike team led by Lieutenant Chen. The team materialized inside the facility, their weapons at the ready. The corridors were dimly lit, the air thick with the hum of machinery and the distant clatter of footsteps. The team moved quickly and silently, their steps muffled by the facility's thick carpeting. As they made their way deeper into the complex, Chen signaled for the team to halt. She had detected movement up ahead, a group of deltan soldiers patrolling the corridor. The team took cover, waiting for the soldiers to pass. Once the coast was clear, they continued their advance, reaching the main lab where the superweapon was being developed. The lab was a cavernous space, filled with rows of consoles and workstations, each manned by a deltan scientist in a white lab coat. At the center of the lab stood a massive quantum computer, its circuits glowing with a pale blue light. This was the heart of the superweapon, the device that powered its devastating capabilities. Chen and her team quickly disabled the guards and scientists, ensuring that the facility remained secure while they worked. Chen accessed the computer's control terminal, using the codes provided by the Ghost to bypass the security protocols. With a few deft keystrokes, she initiated a self-destruct sequence, setting the computer to overload and destroy itself. As the computer began to spark and smoke, alarms blared throughout the facility. The team had been discovered. Deltan soldiers poured into the lab, weapons raised, ready to fight. Chen and her team took up defensive positions, returning fire as the soldiers advanced. The battle was fierce, the air filled with the sound of energy bolts and the acrid smell of burning electronics. But the strike team was well-trained and well-equipped, and they held their ground, fending off wave after wave of deltan reinforcements. Meanwhile, the Blackstar hovered above the facility, providing air support with precision strikes that targeted key defense emplacements and entry points. The facility was crumbling, its systems failing one by one as the self-destruct sequence reached its final stages. Walker watched the battle unfold from the bridge, his hands clenched into fists as he waited for word from the strike team. The seconds ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, Chen's voice crackled over the comms. Mission accomplished. We're ready for extraction. Walker exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Good work, Lieutenant. Prepare for transport. The team was beamed back aboard the Blackstar just as the facility erupted in a massive fireball, the explosion lighting up the night sky of Dalara 6. The superweapon was destroyed, and with it, one of the Empire's most dangerous assets. But as the Blackstar left the planet's orbit and set course for its next mission, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that the war was far from over. The Ghost had proven to be a valuable ally, but there was still much they didn't know about this mysterious figure. What were the Ghost's true motives? And how far could they trust someone who had betrayed their own people? The questions lingered in Walker's mind as the Blackstar continued its campaign against the Deltan Empire. The strikes against the Empire's infrastructure were taking their toll, but the Deltans were far from defeated. Zanth was a cunning and resourceful leader, and he would not go down without a fight. The final confrontation was drawing closer, and Walker knew that it would be a battle unlike any they had faced before. The Deltans were desperate, and desperation could make even the most disciplined soldiers reckless. The Blackstar and its crew would have to be ready for anything. As they prepared for the next phase of the war, Walker couldn't help but wonder if they were truly prepared for what was to come. The stakes were higher than ever, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The battle for Earth's survival was just beginning. The Emperor's wrath, as the Blackstar continued its relentless assault on the Deltan Empire. The tension aboard the ship grew thicker with each passing day. The crew, though battle-hardened and dedicated, could feel the looming shadow of the final confrontation with Emperor Zanth. The Deltan forces, once confident and dominant, were now a wounded beast lashing out in desperation. The Empire's outer colonies had fallen, its fleets had been decimated, and its supply lines were in shambles. But the heart of the Empire, the throne world of Dalara Prime, remained untouched, guarded by the bulk of the Deltan Armada and by Zanth himself, a ruler who would rather see his empire burn than surrender it to the humans he so despised. Walker knew that the time had come to strike at the core of the Deltan Empire. The Ghost, who had proven to be a valuable, albeit enigmatic ally, had provided detailed intelligence on Dalara Prime's defenses. The planet was a fortress, with layers of orbital defense platforms, planetary shields, and a fleet of warships that had been recalled from across the galaxy to defend it. The final battle would be the most difficult of the campaign, and there would be no second chances. Either they would succeed in toppling the Empire, or they would be destroyed in the attempt. In preparation for the assault, Walker convened a strategy meeting with his senior officers and the Ghost, who had joined them via a secure communication channel. The Ghost, cloaked in shadow as always, outlined the plan. The Blackstar would lead a task force of Earth's most advanced warships, along with a contingent of resistance fighters from the Deltan homeworld who had pledged their support in exchange for the promise of a new government after Zanth's fall. The mission was to breach Dallara Prime's defenses, neutralize the planetary shields, and land ground forces to seize key installations, including the Imperial Palace, where Zanth would likely make his last stand. Walker listened intently as the Ghost detailed the strengths and weaknesses of the Deltan forces. The Deltans had concentrated their remaining ships in a defensive ring around the planet, creating a formidable barrier that would be difficult to penetrate. However, the Ghost had identified several vulnerabilities in the Deltans' formation, gaps in their sensor coverage, blind spots in their defensive grids that could be exploited. The key to success would be speed and coordination. They would have to strike hard and fast, overwhelming the Deltans before they could react. The plan was audacious, but Walker knew that it was their best chance. The crew of the Blackstar had faced impossible odds before and emerged victorious. They had trained for this moment, and now it was time to put everything on the line. "This is it," Walker said, addressing the gathered officers. "We've fought long and hard to get here, and now we're going to finish what we started. We take down Zanth, and the Empire falls with him. The Deltans think they're invincible, but we've already proven them wrong. Now we show them that Earth will not be conquered, that humanity will not be enslaved. We've got one shot at this, so let's make it count." The Blackstar and the task force jumped to Dallara Prime, emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. The planet loomed large on the view screen, its surface dotted with the lights of cities and defense installations. Orbiting the planet was the Deltan fleet, a vast armada of warships, cruisers, and dreadnoughts, all positioned in a tight formation to protect the throne world. The Deltan ships were on high alert, their weapons powered up and their shields active. There would be no element of surprise this time. "All ships prepare for battle," Walker ordered, his voice calm and steady. "We're going in hot. Target their defense platforms and shield generators. We need to punch a hole in their defenses and get our ground forces down to the surface." The Blackstar's weapons systems came online, the quantum cannons charging as the ship accelerated toward the Deltan fleet. The rest of the task force followed suit, their engines flaring as they closed the distance. The battle began with a blinding flash as the Blackstar unleashed its opening salvo. Beams of white-hot energy lanced out from the ship's cannons, striking the Deltan defense platforms and tearing through their shields. The platforms exploded in a series of fiery bursts, debris scattering across the void. The Deltan fleet responded with a barrage of plasma fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness as they focused their attacks on the Blackstar. But the Blackstar's shields held, absorbing the onslaught with barely a flicker. Walker ordered the ship to return fire, targeting the lead Deltan ships and disabling their engines and weapons with precision strikes. The rest of the task force engaged the Deltan fleet, their weapons blazing as they closed in on the planet. The battle was chaotic and intense, the void filled with the flash of energy beams, the glow of plasma bolts, and the wreckage of destroyed ships. The Deltans fought with a ferocity born of desperation, but the humans fought with the determination of those who knew that failure was not an option. Slowly but surely, the Deltan defenses began to crumble. The task force pressed the attack, pushing through the gaps in the Deltan formation and driving toward the planet. As the Blackstar approached Dallara Prime, Walker ordered the deployment of ground forces. The ship's transporters hummed as squads of Marines and resistance fighters were beamed down to the surface. Their objective was the Imperial Palace, a massive structure at the heart of the capital city, where Zanth had fortified himself with his elite guards. The ground forces would have to fight their way through the city, past entrenched Deltan soldiers and automated defenses, to reach the palace and capture the Emperor. On the surface, the battle was just as fierce as it was in space. The capital city was a war zone, with buildings reduced to rubble and the streets choked with smoke and debris. The Marines and resistance fighters advanced through the chaos, engaging deltan troops in brutal close-quarters combat. The deltans fought with fanatical loyalty to their emperor, but the resistance fighters, many of whom had suffered under Zanth's regime, fought with the fury of those seeking revenge. The fighting was intense, with casualties mounting on both sides. At the forefront of the battle was Walker, who had beamed down with the first wave of ground forces. He fought alongside his men, his energy rifle cutting down deltan soldiers as they advanced toward the palace. The journey through the city was a harrowing one, with the ground forces encountering ambushes, traps, and heavy resistance at every turn. But they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that the fate of the war, and possibly the galaxy, depended on their success. As they neared the palace, the fighting grew even more intense. The deltans had fortified the area with heavy artillery, automated turrets, and shielded bunkers blocking the way. Walker ordered his forces to split into teams, each one tasked with taking out a specific defense emplacement. The Marines moved with precision and coordination, using their training and superior firepower to outmaneuver and outgun the deltan defenders. The resistance fighters, though less disciplined, fought with a tenacity that more than made up for their lack of formal training. Finally, after hours of brutal fighting, they reached the palace gates. The massive doors were sealed shut, protected by a powerful energy field that repelled all attempts to breach it. Walker knew that they couldn't afford to waste time trying to force their way in. The longer they delayed, the more time Zanth had to prepare for their assault. The Ghost had provided them with the codes to disable the field, but they had to get close enough to the control terminal to input them. It was a dangerous task, one that would require them to expose themselves to enemy fire. "Cover me," Walker ordered, as he made his way toward the terminal, his rifle at the ready. The Marines and resistance fighters provided covering fire, drawing the attention of the deltan guards as Walker approached the terminal. He reached it without incident and quickly input the codes. The energy field flickered and then deactivated, leaving the palace gates unprotected. "Move in!" Walker shouted as the ground forces surged forward, storming the palace. The interior of the palace was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, each one more opulent than the last. But the grandeur of the surroundings did little to dull the sense of danger that permeated the air. The palace was filled with deltan guards, who fought with a ferocity that matched that of their counterparts outside. The ground forces advanced methodically, clearing each room and corridor as they made their way toward the throne room. The final confrontation with Zanth was inevitable. Walker knew that the Emperor would be waiting for them, ready to make his last stand. As they reached the entrance to the throne room, Walker ordered his men to hold position. He would face Zanth alone. The doors to the throne room opened with a heavy groan, revealing a vast chamber bathed in golden light. At the far end of the room, seated on a raised dais, was Emperor Zanth. He was clad in resplendent armor, his face twisted in a mask of hatred and contempt. In his hand, he held an energy blade, its edge glowing with a deadly light. "You dare invade my sanctum, human?" Zanth spat, rising to his feet. "You think you can defeat me? I am the Emperor of the Deltan Empire, and I will not be brought low by the likes of you." Walker stepped forward, his rifle at his side. "It's over, Zanth. Your empire is finished. Your people are tired of your tyranny, and they're ready for a new leader. Surrender now, and maybe we can avoid more bloodshed." Zanth's eyes blazed with fury. "I will never surrender. I will see this world burn before I let it fall to you." With a roar, he charged at Walker, his energy blade slicing through the air with deadly precision. Walker raised his rifle and fired, but Zanth deflected the shots with a sweep of his blade. The two clashed in the center of the throne room, their weapons sparking as they struck and parried. The battle was fierce and brutal, with neither side giving an inch. Zanth fought with the strength of a man who had nothing left to lose, his strikes powerful and relentless. But Walker was faster, his movements precise and controlled. He had faced many opponents in his time, but none as dangerous as Zanth. The Emperor was a skilled warrior, but Walker was fighting for more than just himself. He was fighting for Earth, for humanity, and for the future of the galaxy. The battle raged on, the two combatants locked in a deadly dance of blades and blaster fire. Zanth's armor was scorched and dented, but he continued to fight with a ferocity that bordered on madness. Walker, though battered and bruised, refused to back down. He knew that this was the moment that would decide the fate of the war. One way or another, it would end here. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Walker saw an opening. Zanth had overextended himself, leaving his side exposed. Walker seized the opportunity, swinging his rifle around and delivering a powerful blow to the Emperor's midsection. Zanth staggered, his energy blade slipping from his grasp. Walker followed up with a series of strikes, driving the Emperor back toward the edge of the dais. "It's over," Walker said, his voice cold and resolute. "Surrender, Zanth." But Zanth's eyes blazed with defiance. "Never!" he snarled, lunging forward in a last, desperate attempt to strike Walker down. But Walker was ready. He sidestepped the attack and brought his rifle down on Zanth's back, sending the Emperor crashing to the floor. Zanth lay there, panting and defeated, his armor cracked and his body broken. Walker stood over him, his rifle trained on the fallen Emperor. "It's over," he repeated, his voice firm. "The Empire is finished." Zanth let out a bitter laugh, his voice filled with venom. "You may have won this battle, human, but the war is far from over. There are others who will rise to take my place. You have no idea what you've unleashed." Walker frowned, unsure of what Zanth meant. But before he could ask, the Emperor let out a final rattling breath and lay still. Zanth, the ruler of the Deltan Empire, was dead. A new dawn. With the death of Emperor Zanth, the Deltan Empire began to unravel. The news of Zanth's defeat spread quickly across the galaxy, and with it, the will to fight drained from the remaining Deltan forces. Many of the Empire's soldiers and officers, disillusioned and demoralized, surrendered to the advancing human forces, while others abandoned their posts and fled into the outer reaches of space. The once mighty Deltan fleet, now leaderless and fractured, crumbled under the weight of Earth's relentless assault. The fall of the Empire marked a turning point in the war, but it was far from the end. The galaxy was left in a state of chaos, with many worlds struggling to rebuild in the aftermath of the conflict. The Deltan homeworld of Dallara Prime, once the heart of a vast and powerful empire, was a wasteland, its cities in ruins and its people scattered. The Deltan resistance, led by those who had opposed Zanth's tyranny, began the arduous task of restoring order and rebuilding their society. They were determined to create a new government, one that would be more just and equitable than the regime that had ruled before. On Earth, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The victory over the Deltans had been hard won, and the cost had been high. Many lives had been lost, and the scars of the war would take time to heal. But there was also a sense of pride in what had been achieved. Humanity had stood up to a formidable enemy and emerged victorious. They had proven that they were not to be underestimated, and that they would not be conquered. For Walker, the end of the war brought a mixture of relief and uncertainty. He had led his crew through some of the most intense and dangerous battles of his career, and they had accomplished what many had thought impossible. But now that the war was over, he found himself wondering what came next. The galaxy was a vast and unpredictable place, and there were still many threats and challenges that lay ahead. In the days following Zanth's defeat, Walker and the crew of the Blackstar remained on Dallara Prime, assisting the Resistance in their efforts to stabilize the planet. The ship's medical teams provided aid to the wounded, while engineers helped to repair infrastructure and restore essential services. It was a daunting task, but one that the crew approached with the same determination and professionalism that had seen them through the war. One evening, as the sun set over the ruined skyline of Dallara Prime's capital city, Walker stood on a balcony overlooking the devastation. The city was a shadow of its former self, its once grand buildings reduced to rubble, and its streets filled with the debris of war. But amid the destruction, there were signs of hope. People were beginning to return to their homes, rebuilding what had been lost and working together to create something new. As Walker watched, he was joined by Lieutenant Chen, who had been instrumental in many of the Blackstar's most critical missions. "It's hard to believe it's over," Chen said, her voice tinged with both sadness and relief. "Yeah," Walker replied, his gaze still fixed on the horizon. "But there's still a lot of work to be done." Chen nodded. "The Deltans are going to need a lot of help to rebuild, And there are going to be other challenges, too. The power vacuum left by the Empire. It's going to attract a lot of attention. Not all of it good. Walker sighed. I know, but we'll deal with it, just like we dealt with everything else. We've proven that we can handle whatever the galaxy throws at us. Chen smiled. You really think we'll be able to keep the peace? Walker turned to her, his expression serious. I think it's going to be hard. There are always going to be those who want to take advantage of the situation, who want to stir up trouble. But I also think we've got a chance. The Deltans aren't our enemies anymore. They're our allies. And if we can work together, maybe we can build something better than what we had before. Chen nodded thoughtfully. I hope you're right, Captain. I really do. As the days turned into weeks, the situation on Dallara Prime began to stabilize. The Resistance, with the support of Earth's forces, established a provisional government and began the process of drafting a new constitution. The goal was to create a government that would be more representative of the people, one that would protect the rights and freedoms of all citizens, regardless of their species or background. The transition was not without its challenges. There were those who resisted the changes, who clung to the old ways and the power they had once held. There were also those who sought to exploit the chaos for their own gain, engaging in acts of violence and sabotage. But the Resistance, with the backing of Earth's forces, stood firm. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were committed to seeing it through. For Walker and the crew of the Blackstar, the end of the war brought a new sense of purpose. They had fought to protect Earth and its allies, and now they were fighting to help build a better future. The ship remained in orbit over Dallara Prime, serving as both a symbol of Earth's commitment to peace and a deterrent against those who would seek to disrupt it. One morning, as Walker was going over reports in his quarters, he received a message from the Ghost. The mysterious figure, who had played such a crucial role in the war, had remained in the shadows even after Zanth's defeat. But now, the Ghost had requested a meeting. Walker made his way to the designated meeting place, a secluded spot on the outskirts of the capital city. As he arrived, he saw the Ghost standing there, cloaked in the same shadowy garb that had become their trademark. You wanted to see me? Walker asked, his tone curious but guarded. The Ghost nodded. Yes, Captain. The war is over, but the work is just beginning. I wanted to thank you for trusting me, for taking the risks that were necessary to bring down Zanth. But there is something you need to know. Walker raised an eyebrow. And what would that be? The Ghost hesitated for a moment before speaking. The Deltan Empire was not the only threat to this galaxy. There are others out there, far more dangerous, who have been watching, waiting for their moment. The fall of the Empire has created a power vacuum, and they will seek to fill it. You and your people need to be ready for what comes next. Walker frowned. What are you talking about? Who are these others?